time to time, I like to share stories with you that my Granny Tala told me. Now, her stories were always filled with wisdom and life lessons. But you see, my Papa Coy was also a master storyteller in his own right, but in a whole different genre, if you will. You see, anytime Papa Coy started telling a story, it was best that you roll your britches legs up, because it was about to get deep. That's right. He was a master in the art of spinning yarns. And today, I'd like to share with you one of my favorite stories he told me when I was just a boy, as we sat on the front porch in Deer Lodge, Tennessee. Did I ever tell you about the last boy they ever sent off to college in these parts? Well, you see, young Levi Peters was as brainy as a youngin' as was ever born here in Deer Lodge. His ma and pa were right proud of him, and he was hardly dry behind the ears when they decided they ought to send him off to college. So off Levi went. He stayed there for 4 years and came back with a head full of knowledge. Whenever there was some kind of work that somebody set out to do, Levi could tell them how they ought to do it. He was full of brainy ideas, though he was never the type to do any actual work by himself. Well, one day, he came into the cabin when his ma was churning butter, and there she was, working the dasher up and down, trying to make the butter come. "Ma, how come you don't think of a quicker way to do that?" Levi asked. "Look how much time you spend here every day working that dasher up and down, when you might be using your time for something else." "Well, what other way is there?" his ma replied. "I skim the cream off the top of the milk, I pour it in the churn, then I work the dasher up and down until the cream turns to butter. It's really simple, and it's the same way my mama did in her time and my old granny before her. What other way is there?" "Ma, you just gotta use your head. That's what those professors always told me. Use your head. There's always a way of saving yourself work." "Well, if there's another way, then you find it, smart aleck." She snapped back at him as she had gotten a little tired of being told how to do her work. "Well, don't you worry, Ma. Leave it to me. Tomorrow, you just put the cream in the churn, and I'll see that it's churned without lifting nary one finger." So, with that, his ma took Levi at his word, and on the following day, she poured the cream into the churn and told him he was welcome to figure out how to get it churned without effort. And away she went to the vegetable garden to cut some turnip greens to cook with her salt pork in the cast iron pot in the chimney. When she got back with her apron full of greens, to her amazement, she saw the churn just sitting there in the middle of the floor, a splishin' and a splashin' all by itself. No one was near it, and the dasher still hung on the wall where she had left it the day before. I tell you, it was mighty curious, so she ran to open the top to see what could be inside of that churn. "No, Ma, don't touch it," Levi sang out. "When the splishin' and splashin' stops, that'll be the right time to open the churn, but not a moment sooner. That way, you'll know the butter is gone. Just you call me, and I'll open the churn for you." And with that, Levi went out to watch his pa feed and water the horse. Yet, Levi's ma was still greatly mystified. She swept the floor and washed the dishes, and all the while that splishin' and splashin' was going on inside of that old churn. That poor woman was dead set with curiosity. She could hardly get her work done for wondering what was making that churn go all by itself. And at last, it seemed like she just couldn't stand it a minute longer. "Well, I'll just have one little peep," she thought to herself. "What harm could it do? Levi will never know a thing about it." So she tiptoed over to the churn, leaned over it, and lifted the lid. In that moment, she fell backwards with a yelp. There before her, 3 big green bullfrogs leaped into her face. They were covered with cream and went a-leaping and a-flopping all over the cabin. "What in the world? Somebody help me catch these dad-burned frogs. They're a-leaping and splattering cream on everything." Well, just then, Pa and Levi came running through the door, and what a sight it was. Those frogs were jumping every which way, on the bread and into the flour barrel, on the table. I tell you, the whole place was full of frogs. "Well, there goes my nice, neat cabin. I'll never clean this mess up," Ma cried out. And what a time they had catching those greasy frogs. Pap would grab one, and it would slip out of his hand and hop under the bed. Then Levi would grab one, but it would ooze out of his grip and leap on the mantelpiece. But Finally, when they were all cornered and caught, everybody in the cabin was plumb out of breath. And that cabin, well, it was covered in cream from one end to the other. "Look what you did, Levi. Look at the trouble you caused." "Well, now, wait a second, Ma," Levi rationalized. "It was your own fault. I told you not to open that churn. I was going to take it down to the creek and then open it so those frogs would jump in the water. And none of this would have ever happened." "Have you lost your daggum mind?" his Ma said hotly. "The butter would have been ruined. Who in their right mind would eat it after those dirty frogs had been jumping around in it?" "Well, now, wait a minute, Ma. How could those frogs be dirty? They've spent their whole lives bathing in the clean water that runs in our creek." But at that point, Levi's Ma had heard enough, and she marched outside and dumped the rest of that cream into the hog's bucket. Seeing that Ma was fuming mad, both Pa and Levi quickly got out of that cabin as quick as they could and set out to the barn to give her all the space she needed. Well, anyhow, Pa sat down on the wooden stool and even started milking the cow for the first time ever. And seeing this, Levi couldn't help it, so he crept up near and started giving his Pa advice on the best way to milk the cow. You see, the flies were swarming in the cow stall, and old Bossy was tired of all their biting. She kept swinging her tail to keep 'em away, and every time she gave it a fling, it slapped Pa right across the face. Even Pa was pestered half to death. He started hollering at the cow, threatening, fussing, and whatnot, and just then Levi started out. "Now, Pa, you're not doing a lick of good with all that shouting and bellowing like that. Why don't you use your head? Think of some way to keep the cow from switching her tail." "Well, college boy, why don't you think up a way, since you're so book smart and all?" his Pa replied angrily. "Well, I tell you, Pa, it's as easy as falling off a log. Tie the coat's tail to your leg, and that way she can't swing it." Pa snapped back, and he didn't even look up. He wasn't in any mood to try out any of Levi's brainy ideas. But that cow kept slapping and slapping with his tail until finally he had had enough. "Well, I reckon anything's better than this," he said. So he got up and he tied the cow's tail to his boot strap. And without the use of her tail to swat away those biting flies, Bossy got madder than all get out. She started shaking and fidgeting and flinching, but nothing would stop those biting flies. She shivered and quivered her hide all she could, but they just started biting harder. And finally, one big old horsefly lit on her and stung her right in the back. And it was more than old Bossy could take. She picked up her foot and started kicking left and right. And just then, the milk bucket went up flying and milk spilled all over the stall. "You dang busted critter," Pa yelled out. And then he jumped up and gave Bossy a hard kick to the ribs. But you see, he had forgot all about his foot being tied to Bossy's tail. Just then, Bossy gave a leap and snatched Pa's leg right out from under him, sending him flat on his backside. And all this ruckus just frightened Bossy all the more. She ran out of that stable and dragged Pa all over the yard. She was a-ripping and a-tearing through the corn patch, all the while dragging Pap, tearing his britches while he held onto that rope for dear life. And hearing all the commotion out in the yard, Ma came a-running out on the porch and yelled, "What in tarnation are y'all doing with the cow's tail tied to your bootstrap?" But by then, Pa was being drug all through the tater patch, and it was all he could do to yell out, "Ask that brainy son of yours how I got here." And just then, Pa was finally able to free himself by taking off his boot. And old Bossy went a-tearing into the woods towards the creek. Now Pa, he was completely wore out, and he looked at Ma. "Those professors ruined that boy, I tell you. I could kick myself over and over for sending him off to that college." And hearing that, Levi sang out, "Aha, that gives me an idea." But the old man wasn't sticking around to hear any more of his son's bright ideas. "Levi, your Ma and I are plumb worn out by your shenanigans. Whatever it is you're thinking, I tell you, it's best you keep it to yourself if you know what's good for you." And with that, Paul limped into the cabin with only a few threads of his pants left and his underwear covered in dirt and mud. And right behind Paul was Ma, still mad as a hornet about her milk. The Appalachian Storyteller is viewer supported. Thank you for your support. Now this left Levi all alone to carry out his next bright idea. So he slipped out to the lean-to shed and got a hammer and a saw, and then he found a log and a board before scraping together a few rusty nails. All afternoon he hammered and banged away, and finally he was finished, So he called out Ma and Pa to the shed to check out his latest invention that was sure to please them both. "What in Sam Hill is that?" Pa said as he looked at the strange contraption standing in the middle of the front yard. There stood Levi's masterpiece. It was a board that was fastened over a log, and it looked kind of like a seesaw. On one end, there was a wooden leg stuck up with Pa's boot that had once been tied to old Bossy mounted on it. "But whatever could it be? Pa, now you stand right there," Levi said. "Now bend over a little bit and sit on the end of that board with the boot." And no sooner than Pa put his rear end over that boot, Levi was positioned on the opposite end of the seesaw, and he raised his foot and stomped down just as hard as he could, sending the other end of that board flying into the air, where the boot kicked the tar out of Pa, lifting the old man nearly 2 feet off the ground. Pa let out a firestorm of cuss words, the likes that had never been heard before in Deer Lodge. As he chased Levi with that old boot, Levi ran for his life, just a screaming, "But Pa, you said you could kick yourself for sending me to college. I was only trying to help." And that was the last time that anybody in Deer Lodge ever sent a youngin' off to college.